And welcome to another edition of the COVID Chronicles, folks. COVID Chronicles feature information about then and now. Today's date is April 14th, and we'll be talking about what's going on today and what was going on 1 year ago. I would like to direct all of our viewers to smAsho.com/forum. You can follow along if you like. If you head to smAsho.com, there's a convenient link right there for you to click. Just click on that link and that'll direct you to smAsho.com/forum. And if you check out any of the forums here, for example, General Science, you'll find a globally pinned sticky in the form of the coronavirus. And that's what we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about what went on last year and what's going on today. So let me move up to about page 19. Will be around today's date. Let's try page 20. We started updating smAsho.com/forum on January 23rd, 2020. And we updated it nearly every single day, painstakingly copy-pasting articles as well as sources for the articles. And it is our most widely viewed forum thread, the coronavirus. So feel free to go have a read if you're interested in what was going on a year ago. So we've decided to make this series as the pandemic continues on and on and on. And some people think that we're just going to be safe forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever by wearing masks and staying locked down. As if any non-pharmaceutical intervention is in any way relevant or effective. So it looks like last year, there we go, there's April 14th. And so let's see what was going on a year ago. So this is a letter from Pat Brown, which I put in there. Whistleblower, COVID-19 patients need oxygen therapy, not ventilator. So this was the date when it became evident last year in 2020 that hyperbaric chambers, in other words, chambers with more air than the natural atmosphere, were more beneficial than ventilators, because being on a ventilator, folks, is very, very dangerous. Being on a ventilator requires you to be placed into a medically induced coma, as you will fight the ventilator because, well, frankly, it's a tube shoved all the way down your trachea, and it's extremely uncomfortable to have yourself on a ventilator, and this increases your chance of death massively. So this whistleblower here, Dr. Cameron Kyle Siddell, was treating coronavirus patients himself, and he came out with a startling disclosure that these patients need oxygen therapy, not ventilator, as you could kill them with a ventilator. And I won't get any more in-depth into that. I'll just let the article scroll here. Quote, "I'm a physician who's been working at the bedside of COVID-positive patients in New York City. I believe we are treating the wrong disease and that we must change what we are doing if we want to save as many lives as possible." In February, South Korean physicians reported that critical COVID-19 patients responded well to oxygen therapy without a ventilator. Patients are getting multiple organ damage from hypoxia. It's not the pneumonia that's the killer, it's cellular oxygen deprivation. And we're hurting those patients with ventilators. So the past 48 hours or so saw a huge revelation. COVID-19 causes prolonged and progressive hypoxia, the starving of your body of oxygen, by binding the heme groups in hemoglobin in your red blood cells. And I don't want to get too in-depth into this, as it's going to be a pretty short video today on the COVID Chronicles. Quote, "Patients returning for rehospitalization days or weeks after recovery, suffering from apparent delayed post-hypoxic leukoencephalopathy, strengthen the notion COVID-19 patients are suffering from hypoxia despite no signs of respiratory tire out or fatigue. So, and of course, the CDC was counting both true and speculative guesses of COVID-19 the same. They call it death by COVID-19, and I'm sure all of our viewers are well aware of the padding of numbers and the financial incentive to have your patients diagnosed with COVID. I even heard a story on the radio yesterday about changing death certificate information to include the idea that they were killed by COVID. So, yep, if it sounds like it's ridiculous, if it sounds like it's been ridiculous, indeed it has been ridiculous, and it continues to be ridiculous. What's not ridiculous is Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Let's talk about another article, which we couldn't resist posting on the forum last year. Success during, quote, hard and, quote, times. Sex toy company sees sales rocket 38% since COVID-19 lockdown started. Yes, that's right. Some organizations benefited. Amazon. And so did others, such as this company. And I quote, "Then capitalism took over. When I started looking into it, I realized that it was a massive market there aren't a lot of people to compete with," Silver concluded. "After some market research, we found people don't want to spend a lot of cash to buy a sex toy because they might realize it's not for them and you can't return them. Godspeed, lads." And let's see what's going on today. So now that we've covered what was going on last year, at least 2 stories about it, let's see what's happening today. So what we're going to do here is we're going to head to Zero Hedge, and we're going to scroll down to the bottom of their news feed, and we're just going to scroll up to show everybody Zero Hedge's headlines. 7 reasons why a vaccine passport should give us pause for thought. Let us know in the comments what your theories are on a vaccine passport. We're more than interested. Indian crematoriums overwhelmed as country struggles with second worst COVID outbreak. Oh my God, it's the second worst COVID outbreak. What about crypto, folks? Have you been looking into crypto? Yeah? Let us know in the comments. We are now entering full-blown tyranny in the Western world. I would refute that in that we've been in full-blown tyranny for a couple of years in the Western world, although COVID has definitely upped the game. Container shortage continues, as well as a high-end bicycle shortage. Were you aware? Are you trying to buy a high-end bike? Well, guess what? You probably can't do it. I would also note this Veritas story. So Veritas put out a video yesterday about a CNN technical director being busted by saying, "Fear sells." They intentionally tried to get Trump out of office, which makes CNN officially propaganda. Most busted name in news. The exact opposite of the Smash News Network, CNN, and that's why we branded ourselves the way that we did. COVID abates. Tax and geopolitical risks emerge. Gee, who would have figured that artificially destroying the world economy could have geopolitical effects? Who could have ever guessed such a thing, folks? What a crazy idea. Who would have ever thought that locking down and masking and all the other ridiculous non-pharmaceutical interventions which are totally ineffective at controlling viruses would have had bad effects? I mean, it's just incredible. Who would have ever guessed? I mean, besides all rational humans. Let's see what else we got. Nancy Pelosi's husband's stock dealings. All right, and we're going to just feature one article here real quick. COVID abates, tax and geopolitical risks emerge. The COVID outlook continues to improve. The Fed has prioritized COVID over inflation, tax hikes to pay for spending, and relations with China and Russia introduced geopolitical risks. Gee, isn't that surprising? I couldn't imagine how this could have worked out. Anyway, I'm going to let the article scroll here. Feel free to pause if you like. It's the beauty of video on demand, folks. And since interest rates are already at zero, do you really think the Fed is going to raise interest rates, folks? Do you really think the Fed is going to raise interest rates? Leave us a comment and let us know if you think the Fed is going to raise interest rates. Let's go to one of the most pathetic news sources in the world, CBSNews.com. One of the most pathetic, biased, corporate, hack news sources that I've ever seen in my entire life is CBS News. And here's their homepage. Now, they've got a header there entitled Coronavirus Crisis. And it seems like a crisis of accountability going on in the year 2021. What do you think? How come public officials are not yet held accountable? It's already mid-April, folks. When is there going to be accountability for people like Fauci and Tom Wolf and Governor Whitmer and Governor Cuomo, etc.? What's going on with the Cuomo story? When is he going to be held accountable? I don't know. Let's click on the coronavirus crisis header. Oh, okay. Fauci on what Johnson & Johnson vaccine reactions could mean for women. So there was a story out yesterday about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine being suspended as a result of, I believe, blood clots. And I'm not going to play any clips from Fauci. And by the way, if you haven't seen our music video for Shut Up Fauci, check it out. There's a playlist, youtube.com/smAsho/playlists. That one would be in our original music playlist. Shout out to YouTube channel Mr. Keebler. Shout out to Henry and Al. You're doing a fine job over there. Hours after the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the Food and Drug Administration recommended a pause on giving out the Johnson & Johnson vaccine due to adverse reactions in 6 women, Dr. Anthony Fauci, St. Fauci, spoke with CBS Evening News about what the decision means. Question to Fauci: did the CDC and FDA overreact by issuing a pause on the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine? No, I don't think so, Dr. Fauci says. We want to make sure that safety is a very important issue without overreacting. That's the reason why they said pause. They didn't say stop. All right, so that's one story. Let's head to another news source, or you could say a propaganda source. How about HuffPost.com, who's probably going into Trump withdrawals as we speak, since Trump is not in office anymore, which means that they've lost half of their content, because half of their content was specifically to demonize Trump. What is this one? Ah, yes, Gates. Very concerned about Gates. What's going on here? What, does he have no makeup on? Oh my God. Biden proceeds with Trump's biggest arms deal. And so since we already covered a story about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, let's see what the next coronavirus headline is about. Oh, hey, check it out. This guy right here looks like a dick. You look like a dick wearing that mask. Whoever you are. I have no idea who it is. I have no idea. Democrats propose permanent boost to unemployment benefits. I guess that's a COVID story, so let's check that one out. Democrats propose permanent boost to unemployment benefits. So seeking new standards for compensation. Some Democrat senators Ron Wyden of Oregon and Michael Bennett of Colorado announced legislation Wednesday that would set minimum federal standards for unemployment benefits nationwide and ensure that extra aid kicks in when unemployment levels are high. Now, I've got ideas about federal programs, things like the minimum wage. The federal government should not be involved in matters economic, period, in my opinion. And let's just go to one more news source here. How about the Washington Examiner? So we'll go to a, quote, far-right news source, just for shits and giggles here. And let's see, they indeed do not have a coronavirus header on their site. Let's pick their biggest, scariest looking headline. And indeed, this one is about COVID too. Residents pay price for years of inept officials. Huh, decades of inept officials. Speaking of decades of inept officials, there's an inept official. Man, that guy looks like a real dick in that mask. Whoever it might be. Is that the Taliban? Andrea Morrison has a 12-year-old son in Little League, but he can't play ball because he gets threatened by a homeless man who lives in the dugout. The man allegedly harassed the preteen player at Seattle's Ballard Community Center Fields and has gone so far as to threaten to kill him. As a mother, Morrison has had enough. She said the homeless people camped out at the park suffer from mental illness and that their actions are unpredictable. As Oregon lawmakers look to protect hotels for the homeless from lawsuits. Because there's nothing like getting a free hotel room and then suing the hotel in which you got the free hotel room. In any case, the homelessness crises in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, and Oregon, notice how they're all on the left coast, by the way, and Seattle, didn't happen overnight. Little by little, cities succumbed to skyrocketing housing prices, rampant drug use, and liberal policies that have made it easy for people to feed their addictions and commit crimes, making it hard for the mentally ill to get treatment. And I'll tell you what's mentally ill, the state of affairs on planet Earth. So that's today's COVID Chronicles Then and Now for April 14th, 2020 and 2021. Thanks for leaving comments. Precious lights. Don't forget to check the rest of our playlists as well, folks. Again, youtube.com/smashomash/playlists. Please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/smashomash. Don't forget to press like and subscribe. Leave us a nice comment like Precious Lights did. Thanks again, Precious Lights. And we'll see you next time here at the Smash News Network. Least busted. Name and news.